this for the women that, yes, so I'm recording just so the women who aren't able to join can actually take a look at this on the back end. So thank you guys so much for joining. This is such a hot topic as mamas. We're going to talk about sleep tonight because it is something that is sometimes few and far between as moms. So I am so excited to dive in, and thank you guys so much for being here. So just to level set, I am Christina Deering. I am a pregnancy and postpartum life coach, and I am here to support you through your pregnancy and your postpartum journey. My goal is truly just to not only coach women through their journey, because it's such an individualized journey with so many highs and lows, but also to bring you incredible experts in the field of maternity. And so that being sleep. So today is like, this is one of my favorite interviews already. I just can't wait to dive into this topic. So yeah, our goal is just to make your journey easier. So for tonight, we're going to be diving into the first part of a 3-part sleep series. So this is going to be focused solely on birth to 16 weeks. So birth to that 4-month period where your baby is just coming home and you're like, what now? So we're going to be diving into that. Then the next part of the series, so look out for that one, will be 4 months to a year. And then we're going to do a year to 4 years. So that toddler year, or that toddler time. So just to note, you guys do not have to take notes during this. Not only am I going to share the recording, Pam is so amazing. She has pulled together a document for you guys that has the questions and the answers underneath it, because we're moms, we're usually multitasking, we're doing a million things at once. So that's going to be something we'll be providing you guys after this. And then just a reminder, there's Q&A at the end, which I'm really excited about, because that's y'all's opportunity to actually ask questions about things that are specific to what's happening in your home. So maybe it's something you're struggling with. So just keep that in mind as we're moving through this, that at the end, absolutely ask any questions that you're experiencing, and Pam is going to help guide you through that. So at the end too, I'll be talking about some exciting exclusive offers that Pam wanted to share with us specifically for this group, which I'm so excited about. So I will be diving into those at the end. She's incredible. She wrote this book, Raising Confident Parents, and she wants to give you guys this for free. So I'm going to be sharing her website where you can actually download it. She is so incredible when it comes to providing resources for moms, because we need it. And so I'll dive into some of the other stuff that she's going to be providing specific to you guys, because she just wants to help. So without further ado, I would like to introduce Pam Jones, who she's a sleep consultant / angel on earth, an expert at all things that help you and baby sleep. So Pam, thank you so much for joining us. We're so excited you're here. And we'd love to just hear a little bit about yourself and your background in this area.
Sure, absolutely. Thank you so much for having me. As you well know, I do love to talk babies. So I could probably keep you guys here until midnight, but so I'm going to try and talk a bit fast, because there's a lot of information that I want to give you. But like Christina said, you don't have to make notes. We're going to give you all this information, but there is a lot, even for this small section of birth to 16 weeks. But again, my name is Pam Jones. I'm a mom of 2 amazing adult children, Brian and Brittany, and Gigi, to 2 beautiful grandbabies, Reese and Brexton, and they are my heart. I've been a registered nurse for 25 years, specializing in maternal and infant care and parent education. I've been a certified sleep consultant for infants and toddlers for the last 10 years. I'm the co-author of Raising Confident Parents, and we are excited. We just finished our online parenting class, also called Raising Confident Parents, with all the information that the publisher would not let us fit in our book. So I own Sweet Dreams Little Ones in Dallas. I did own a large night nurse agency called Sweet Dreams Infant Care in Chicago. with my sister, and that was a wonderful 10 years of my life, but I really missed being out there with the babies and the parents. So we sold the company almost 2 years ago, and now I get to be back out there doing what I love. So I'm one of the very few sleep consultants that travel around the US to be with you in your homes overnight, especially at 3 in the morning when you need the most help, and teach you healthy sleep strategies for your baby. I don't use Cry It Out. I design a specific plan tailored for you and your baby. Then I put you to bed to catch up on your own lost sleep, and I do the training for you. Or I'll support you while you do the training, whichever you prefer. My passion is to help families enjoy this incredible time in their life and be rested enough to remember it. So I'm really excited to be here with Christina as she supports expectant and new moms. I wish there were groups and people like her when I had my kids 38 years ago. You know, we all need a place and people to talk to where we can be real, no mommy shaming bullshit, excuse my language. Talk about real problems and real feelings, not just about the latest new designer diaper bag. You know, being a mom and going through pregnancy is hard. I've worked with over 1,000 moms, and I can tell you 100% that every mom struggles, no matter how easy they try to make it look on social media. I'm really proud of Christina as she wants to help women and provide a safe place to be. Now let's talk sleep.
Yes, please. Let's talk sleep. Oh man, because as mamas, we want to sleep. So let's dive into it. So we've just had our baby. We want to bring them home. How do we go about setting up a safe and comfortable sleep environment for baby on day one?
Sure. So there's, some things we really want to think about. And the more you can have set up before you bring the baby home, the more relaxed and comfortable you're going to be once you are home with the baby and you're not trying to put cribs together and figure things out. The American Academy of Pediatrics is recommending that the baby stay in your room for the first 6 months to a year. We want them in a crib or a bassinet or a co-sleeper that's on the side of your bed, but not in your bed. If you do plan on bed sharing, please talk to your pediatrician. Do not let them sleep in a car seat unless it's moving in a car. Their foreheads are heavy, their heads are heavy and can fall forward and occlude their breathing. So we want to make sure that they're not sleeping for naps or overnight in a car seat. You want to make sure that you have a new crib. Unfortunately, this is important not to get hand-me-downs because a lot of the crib rules have changed as far as the slats not being so far apart, and there not being as many gaps in the new cribs. So you really do want to invest in a new crib. You don't have to spend a fortune on a crazy beautiful crib, but you do need a new one that you make sure that it's safe. And we don't want anything in the crib. No bumpers. I know they're beautiful, but they're just not safe. No toys, blankets, stuffed animals, nothing on the wall above the crib that can fall into the crib. And, these are a lot of things I can tell you when my kids were born, I never thought of. So a lot of those things I try and bring to the forefront so that people will know now the things that we did not know then. You don't want to put the crib near a window that has blinds. If the blind strings are hanging down, they are a choking hanging risk. And so if you do have to put the baby by a window that has blinds, you want to make sure that the blind strings are securely tied up where there's no way that they can fall down. So you want to make sure that the room is really dark, as I call it, Vegas dark. And if you need a little night light, you can use a small yellow or red night light if it's needed. But the darker the room is for the baby, the better the baby will sleep. Melatonin is affected with the light coming in, and in the morning, if the light comes in the side of the drapes, the baby will wake up. I've had cases where we have put Christmas wrapping paper on the windows because they didn't have black garbage bags. And so anything in a desperate time, desperate measures. So you really want to do anything you can to keep that room nice and dark. You know, excuse me. I do really like noise machines, continuous noise machines. Bed Bath & Beyond has like a Homedics noise machine for $19.99. Anything that you can plug in and it runs continuous through the night. You don't want like the stuffed animals that only go for like 20 minutes. It helps with a few things. I like to use the ocean waves or rain. I live in Dallas now, so I did start my granddaughter with a rain app because the rain is really, really loud here in Dallas. So I was hoping to be able to get her used to the rain noise and not have it wake her up. And it actually worked. So, or I like the ocean waves. And of course, I'm so used to hearing those waves that I sleep with them now myself and have to bring a travel noise machine wherever I go. It also drowns out any noise in the house. If you have siblings, that are playing, or, gosh forbid, you're trying to put away dishes. I remember like trying to be so quiet, and boy, if my husband would drop a dish, he was on the couch for sure. So this really, and you use it pretty loud. They say as loud as the baby can cry. So when they do wake up, they use it as a soothing technique, and then it really drowns out the other noise and, beeping on the street, cars going by, things like that. It can really help to get through that. We want the room temperature nice and cool. According to SIDS, we want it between 65 and 70. And then you're going to dress the baby accordingly. If they're below younger than 4 months, you can swaddle them. You want to make sure the swaddle goes below the neck and is not able to raise up and cover the neck or the nose, or the face, mouth, or the nose. And then, however, wherever you live, you can dress them for that temperature. Here in Dallas, it's pretty hot. So sometimes, depending on the temperature in the room, you may only put like a t-shirt on them. And if you have a swaddle, and then try and, look for what temperature is best. I don't trust the temperatures that show up on the monitors. I really ask for people to get a small little thermometer that sits in their room, because we don't want the baby overheated. That is a SIDS risk. A circulating fan is really nice. Not a harsh fan blowing on the baby, but a ceiling fan that circulates the air is really healthy for them. And then I always check their nose, see if it's really hot or cold, if they have like beads of sweat on their forehead, or when I get them up in the morning, my kids, they would be soaking wet sweat through their t-shirts and their swaddle, because they were just really hot babies. So every baby's different. And even if you have 2 or 3 babies, one may be different from another. So that's how I kind of try and regulate with the swaddles. I do like babies to be swaddled. It helps them to not have the reflex where they're smacking themselves in the face or scratching their face. And you do want to put it on snug, but have 2 fingers be able to fit underneath the chest, not loose enough for it to come up. There's lots of different swaddles out there. Some babies will cry at first when you put it on them, and it may be that they're just overtired or it's not snug enough. You don't want it snug on their legs. The legs really aren't the problem, and we don't want any restrictions on their hips, but the arms is what you really want snug. If they're premature, I like to put their hands up by their chest. The other swaddles, a lot of them will either put them in little pockets to have them up, or have them down by their along their waist. And if some babies are just busting out of them all the time, sometimes I'll swaddle the baby and just kind of put their hands up and put little socks over their hands so they don't scratch their face. Please, please do not use any sleep devices with sides or wedges in the baby's crib. I know there's some really great comfy ones out there that I would love to sleep in myself, but they really are a dangerous SIDS risk. If you're looking at it and it's anything that the baby can turn their face and there is a cushiony side here, please don't use it. The baby can breathe in their own carbon dioxide, and that can cause them to have a SIDS incident, they have found. So nothing with sides. You want the baby, ABCs of safe sleep, you want them alone on their back in a crib or bassinet. Make sure no one's smoking in the house. And please talk to your pediatrician if you do plan on bed sharing. If you bring the baby to bed with you to nurse, just as soon as you're done nursing, please put them back in their own sleep space.
Yeah, I love it. So when we're kind of whittling it down here, it sounds like we're minimizing a lot of distractions, right? We don't want things over the crib. We don't want things in the crib, especially because the fear of them, rolling over and it blocking them from being able to breathe. The idea too of our windows, even though we had blackout curtains, we put up trash bags too, which was your idea. You were like, you need to, there's still light in here. So we literally, I don't know how it looks on the outside, but whatever. We put trash bags up on those windows because it really was starting to wake him up at some point in his sleep cycle. So he's literally 4 months today. So I think that is really helping him move through now this 4-month sleep regression, which we'll dive into a little bit more too. But yeah, so many good tips. I'm really excited that you have these listed out for mamas too. So moms, as you were hearing all these tips, don't feel like you have to remember all of them. It'll be in the document that we send out. So you could literally do a checklist. You can be like, okay, make sure that this is there, this is there, this is there. And I was going to ask you too, when you're talking about the swaddles. So I originally had the swaddle that Velcros, and that's kind of really loud, but it works really well. But in the middle of the night when I was changing him, I ended up finding ones that zipped actually were less loud. Do you have preferences, or are there ones that are better than others when it comes to the swaddles?
Yeah, I'm honestly not a real big fan of the Velcro for a few reasons. One, they are loud. Most of them don't offer an option that you can keep the arms swaddled and unzip the swaddle bag from the bottom and change their diaper without taking the swaddle completely off.
Mm-hmm.
They also stick to a lot of clothes in the dryer. And so a lot of people have to wash them in a separate bag. And they're so strong so quickly that they will bust out of the swaddles. I do like the Miracle Blanket. It really keeps them secure and doesn't have the extra material to have it go up over their face. There's some really great ones out there. Some like a Merlin sleep sack is good, especially from transitioning from a regular arms down tight swaddle to if the baby really wants their arms up. But again, the Merlin blanket is very thick because it's kind of made that way so that they feel snug. So it's not the best option for Dallas summers. But any swaddle that you use, you may have to try a couple. So don't buy a lot of one type, and see which one they like, but try it a few times. Some people will try a swaddle and they say, my baby hates to be swaddled, they cry, and they kind of give up on it. Most babies honestly love to be swaddled, especially in the beginning, the first few months, because they feel really secure and safe. They're not smacking themselves in the face. They feel like they're still inside mom, kind of like that fourth trimester. And then once they start rolling over, usually about 4 months, some earlier, but we want to make sure that they are out of any swaddle that confines their arms once they start rolling over. Once they roll over onto their bellies, they need those free arms and hands to push themselves up. So we want to make sure that they are in what I call like a sleep sack or a wearable blanket. So it keeps them warm because we don't want any loose blankets in the crib. It's really good for their routine as far as going to sleep. And, then it does keep them warm.
Yes. Yeah. Okay. I really want to re-highlight that. So when baby can start flipping over, it's really important to get them hands free so they can push themselves up in case they do flip over. Yeah, I know even for Will, my son, he was like a gymnast where his legs were like, I remember you pointing it out, like his legs were like all the way up at the top. And you're like, he might flip himself at
Yeah.
some point. And that's why we went to that sleep sack. So yeah, really important to note to transition into something that's arms free once baby can actually turn over.
Right. And also things in the crib that I didn't mention too is we really don't like a mobile above the crib, or the like fish aquariums. You can certainly have those set up somewhere else so that they can play with them. But in the crib, we really want them to get used to that is just for sleep, and it's not somewhere that they're going to go and be entertained.
Yes, good point. Okay, so thinking about, so we're bringing baby home, the environment is safe. What can we do as parents to help babies start sleeping better, even from that first day home from the hospital?
Yeah, you really can start early. And, it's something that none of us really knew, including myself. So you want to make sure, you're getting them. Obviously, your first goal is feeding them enough. So if they're not feeding well enough, they're not going to sleep. So you want to feed them every 1 to 3 hours if you're breastfeeding, and every 2 to 3 hours if you're bottle feeding. And one thing I would recommend every breastfeeding mom is please, please go on my YouTube channel and watch the Fed is Best interview with Dr. Christine Hagel. She does an amazing, amazing interview about breastfeeding and what to watch for. And I wish I could have every mom in the world watch this video because it's really so, so important. And so please, if you're breastfeeding, go on the YouTube channel. Christina will be providing it with all my social media, and and watch that video. You'll really get a lot out of it. But for feeding amounts, people are always questioning, well, how much do they need to eat? And so there is a formula we would use in the hospital, and it's you multiply the baby's weight by 2.5 for a total. So if the baby's 8 pounds, you're going to multiply it by 2.5, which equals 20. And then you're going to divide that by 8 feedings. So if they're feeding every 3 hours. So that would equal 2.5 ounces every 3 hours. So I always say you want to make sure that you're feeding the baby every 3 hours during the day and at night at least. I mean, some breastfed babies will be helping your milk come in and want to nurse every hour. Just please make sure they're not using you for a pacifier, which they like to do also. And you want to get them feeding often because their first goal is to be back up to their birth weight by 2 weeks old. So all babies will lose, sometimes up to 10% of their weight in the hospital. That's very normal. So the first goal that the doctors give is to get them back up to their original birth weight by their 2-week checkup. And then by the end of the 4th month, if they're taking, by the end of their 1st month, if they're taking about 4 ounces, still feed every 4 hours, every 3 hours during the day, and then wake them after 4 hours during the night, unless the doctor tells you otherwise. So according to John Hopkins, he makes an approximate bottle feeding amounts, 1 month old, 2 to 4 ounces, 6 to 8 feedings. At 2 months, 5 to 6 ounces, 5 to 6 feedings. 3 to 5 months, 6 to 7 ounces, in 5 to 6 feedings. And, that's just very, very approximate. Every baby will eat differently. I usually say, offer them, say 3 ounces, and if they stop or they spit up, then the next feeding go back to 2.5. If they suck the bottle dry, then go up a half an ounce, and see how they do little by little. You don't want to jump from 2 ounces to 4 ounces, and you want to watch and see how they do with increasing their feedings.
Definitely.
So with each additional ounce, it's kind of a baby nurse wise tale, but sometimes it works. With each additional ounce of milk, sometimes you'll get an extra hour of sleep during the night. But you always want to talk to your doctor before eliminating any nighttime feedings. And you want to make sure the baby's hungry and not just using mom for a bottle or a pacifier to soothe themselves to sleep.
Yep. So helpful. So tell me, so if you're a breastfeeding mama and you can't actually see how many ounces they're using in a bottle, what do you recommend there?
Well, you want to, sometimes I'll have moms pump just to kind of get an idea of how much milk they do have. Especially at the beginning,
Yeah.
the baby will bring in the milk much better and faster than the pump. But if you have any concerns, if the baby is getting enough, you're going to be watching for, first of all, their wet diapers and poops. The first day they come home from the hospital, you want 1 wet diaper, 1 poop. The second day, 2 and 2. The third day, 3 and 3. The fourth day, 4 and 4. And then by day 6, they usually have about 6 to 8 wet diapers and 2 to 3 stools. So if they're having their wet diapers and stools, you can feel pretty comfortable that they're getting enough milk from you. But if you ever have any question, if the babies are really lethargic and really sleeping, you can't wake them up for a feeding, that's when you really want to talk to your doctor or get a lactation consultant. You can do a weigh and feed where you'll weigh the baby, put them to breast, and then weigh them again to see how many ounces they are getting. But if you have any questions, any doubts, make sure that you let your doctor know, call a lactation consultant. I tell moms to, put the baby on one breast and really empty that breast because we want to get to that hind fatty milk, and then put them on the second breast for desserts, and then switch. So the next feeding, you'll put them on the second breast, so to speak, from the last feeding, and then the first feeding. So a lot of moms will use like a ponytail holder and kind of switch it so you can keep track. Or if you write down that you started on the left side and then the next feeding you start on your right. But you do want to make sure that you're not just using a clock where you're, okay, 5 minutes on one side, 5 minutes on another, because babies, especially as they get older, they're going to be able to empty your breast quicker. And at the beginning, it's going to be really slow. It may take 30 minutes for them to empty your breast, and they're getting practice. They're having, telling your breast to produce more milk. But I always tell people, try and make sure that they're getting that hind milk on the first breast, and then go to the second breast, because otherwise a lot of times babies will just get the fore milk, which is more watery milk, which they do need, but they'll get the fore milk from one breast, the fore milk from the other, and not get that back hind fatty milk.
Really good tips. Also, when you said the hair tie on the wrist, I thought you meant put it over your breast, and I was like,
Oh no!
I'm like, what a weird thing to do. Like, I'm like, how does that even stay on? No, so you put it on the wrist that you started with last time. Okay,
Yeah, and
that
they
makes sense.
make like they actually make like bracelets for breastfeeding
Oh, nice.
that you can, switch off. Or some moms will use like before the fancy bracelets, we used to have to put like a safety pin on our bra
Mm,
for which side to start on the next time. But now they have cute stuff.
got it, got it. But if you're just like, hey, I don't have time to buy the cute stuff, the hair
Mhm.
tie. We all have hair ties en
Exactly.
masse at some
Right.
point.
Exactly.
Very smart. I love it. Okay, so thinking about um, encouraging baby how to self-soothe. So how do we do that? Because I know that's a really big part of them being able to sleep through the night later in life. How do we encourage baby to actually self-soothe?
Right. So it is. It's really, really important. And again, it's usually not something in the past that we've even started when the baby first comes home, because it can be really difficult. The babies, they usually feed, they go to sleep. They feed, they go to sleep. So I've just over the last few years starting to try and do what I usually will start about 4 months. My grandson was just my really big subject and tester. And so right when he came home, we try and use it's called an easy process where they eat, they have activity, and then they go to sleep on their own. So uh, even if you just keep them up, when they first come home, they have like a 45-minute window, wake up window. We'll talk more about wake up windows, which are really important, something I knew nothing about. But you want to try and get them to eat and then stay up for just a little bit and then lay them down in their sleep space. You can give them pacifier, you can rub their tummy, rub their face, and see if they're able to go to sleep on their own. If they're really fussing, you're going to pick them up, burp them, walk them, rock them, calm them down however you have to at this point. And then try and lay them back down drowsy, but before they fall asleep on you. Now, you may only have to be able to do this once a day, and that's okay because, again, they're babies. They're going to usually eat and fall asleep. But if you can continue to do this more and more, where they are learning to put themselves to sleep, and they'll sometimes suck on their fingers. They can suck on a pacifier. SIDS is recommending a pacifier now when they first go to sleep. There is research that it does help with SIDS, but they also say like if it falls out, you don't have to keep putting it in their mouth. But them using a pacifier is part of self-soothing. So, and like Christina said, Will would do and a lot of babies will do like this jackknife with their legs going up and down. And that is part of self-soothing. Rubbing their feet together, kind of rubbing their hands, rubbing the back of their head on the crib. It's all part of self-soothing that they're doing to try and get themselves to sleep. So parent-dependent sleep is when we feed them until they're sound asleep, and then we lay them gingerly in their crib, and then they wake up because now they need mom, dad, partner to feed them or rock them, or like me, drive my son around in the car 38 years ago to get him to sleep. They need that same scenario to be able to get themselves to sleep. So if we can teach them little bit by little bit just how to put themselves to sleep, and we're certainly not going to like let them cry, but trying to teach them that there are things they can do for themselves to put themselves to sleep. And then as they keep discovering those things, they won't need you to put them to sleep every time they wake up. Because even if they fall asleep because we've rocked them into a deep sleep. They're snoring, you know, you've got it. And you lay them down and they might, you know, they might sleep even for say an hour and then they wake up. They have no idea how to put themselves back to sleep. They don't know. So all they know is somebody fed them, rocked them, bounced them on those blue balls. Please don't do that. Um, and or drove them around in the car to get them to sleep. So they need that same scenario. So that's parent directed sleep. We want to teach them to self-soothe even little bits at a time, even if they fuss for 10 seconds and you know, build up to that. Like I said, you're not going to let them cry, but if they can, each time they fall asleep without you, is going to teach them little by little how to put themselves to sleep as they get older, and they will not, you know, they won't depend on you to have to put them to sleep when they wake up 10 times during the night like we all do. So, you know, we know it's really hard when they're so little because, you know, you want to snuggle them and that's great. And you can rock them. If you can try and do it until they're drowsy and not sound asleep, that's going to really help. And, you know, just help them finding new ways to do it on their own. A lot of times they'll wake up at night and they're not hungry. You know, you just fed them, you know, really good feeding an hour ago. You pick them up, try and burp them. A lot of times, I find if they wake up within that first hour, a lot of times they'll have a burp stuck. Some babies may have reflux, they may be more gassy, they may have colic. A lot of times I will try and burp them even before I start feeding them, just in case they've got some air stuck down in their belly. I'm not feeding them on top of it. I try and get that burp out before I start feeding them. So you can pick them up, you can try and burp them, try and settle them, calm them down, do whatever you have to do to get them calm, and then try and lay them down before they're sound asleep. And this will not always be possible. You know, as I know, the first 4 months, well, more than that, 21 years, parents are in survival mode. And you're going to do whatever you can to get the baby and yourself back to sleep as quick as possible. And, you know, as I said, I drove around with my son and he blames me that it's my fault he falls asleep in the car, but I would have driven to China if it meant I got 3 hours of sleep. So just try and practice using the self-soothing techniques, and anytime you can do it, it's a win. But don't put pressure on yourself that, oh my gosh, they fell asleep while I was rocking them, now they're not going to self-soothe. It's a very learned process. So, you know, as many times as you can do it, great. If they fall asleep, you know, I don't want you like turning on the lights, pouring cold water over them to wake them up before you lay them back down.
Yes.
So,
Yeah. Oh, so many good tips. And just a reminder, you guys, so we are handing out notes in case you were like, this was a lot of info. Yeah, we're handing out notes after this. So you'll have all of this written down. There's so much juiciness that it works. It really works. So you can start creating that checklist too of kind of like, what do I do? How, you know, what is working? And kind of the test and learn too. And it changes, you know, sometimes daily. So exactly like Pam was saying, have grace with yourself. If baby falls asleep in your arms and you're like, oh, I just want like him to stay here for just another minute, soak it up. You know, you can always do it in the next feeding. I know there were several times where I was like, but he's so cute, I don't want to put him down yet. So yeah, just have grace with yourself. This period in your life only comes at one, you know, only comes for a certain amount of time. So but this is just to help you and help baby get more sleep. So the more you can do stuff like this, the easier sleep gets. So really, really good tips. And kind of with that in mind, so how do you make sure that baby doesn't get overtired? Because I know you mentioned sleep windows and them needing to only be awake for at first 45 minutes to an hour, which I didn't know that. When I first had Will, I was like, he needs to be awake all day and that way he'll sleep all night. Like literally I didn't know that at all. So you were saying, the longer that he's awake, it's almost like he's having a pot of coffee now. So really important to kind of walk through, like, how do we make sure baby doesn't get overly tired? Because that's on the other side of the spectrum too, that also keeps baby awake.
Exactly. And it's so much harder for them to even attempt to self-soothe themselves when they're overtired. And I did the same thing. I'm not a morning person, I'm a night person. So I thought I'm going to keep my babies up late at night, and then they're going to sleep late in the morning. And that is never true.
That's correct.
Never. And I had no idea that there was wake windows. I thought, okay, well, I'm going to keep them up. And, then when they're really, really crying, I'll try and lay them down, and then they'll sleep longer and we'll get a longer nap. And what I have really found is everything I thought I knew, the truth is the opposite. So once I got that down, I was like, man, I wish I knew this stuff 38 years ago. But so there is a wake window reference guide, and we're going to get that to you too, because I really, really find it helpful just to have some idea. Just know that it's not exact, and every baby is so different. And like I said, even if you have 2 babies, 3 babies, they're going to be different from each other. And so usually the wake window for birth to 6 weeks is about 45 minutes to an hour, if that. Birth, I mean, it might be 20 minutes. With my grandson, when we were starting with the easy process, my daughter-in-law would breastfeed him. We would try and keep him up even like 20 minutes, and then lay him down to go to sleep. So birth to 6 weeks is about 45 minutes to an hour, so to speak. 6 to 10 weeks is an hour to an hour and 15 minutes. 11 to 15 weeks is about an hour and a half. And 4 to 5 months is about 2 hours. So what does that mean? So when the baby wakes up, say 7 in the morning for their wake up, you want to make sure that first you feed them, and then you have some type of activity, obviously depending on their age. Maybe 20 minutes of tummy time, but tummy time can be hard to do because you can't do it right after they eat. So some type of activity that you can do with a week-old baby. And once they start to show their sleep cues, and a lot of babies they'll yawn, they'll rub their eyes, they'll pull on their ears, they'll kind of stare off into space. And if you're thinking, okay, it's 30 minutes and their wake window should be about 45, and they're starting to do that at 30 minutes, get them down for a nap. And at first the babies usually take about 6, sometimes 8 naps a day when they're first born. And that's okay, because they're only having maybe 30, 45 minutes awake time. Maybe by 6 weeks they can stay up for an hour, but always watch their sleep cues. And some babies are more sensitive to than others. My grandson was, you better put me down and put me down now. And some are a little bit more lenient, but you want to try and keep them within those wake windows, because you will notice, and you'll say, oh, I remember when Pam said this. Is you'll keep track, and say the baby is 10 weeks old and you're thinking, okay, an hour and 15 minutes, but I'm going to run to the store, and when I come back, it's been now an hour and 45 minutes. And you try and lay him down for a nap, and all he does is cry and cry and cry. And he's tired because it's already been an hour and a half. That tells us pretty easily, we can look at that note and say we missed their window. And especially first thing in the morning, if they wake up at 7 and their wake time is an hour and a half, they will usually go down for that first morning nap the earliest. So maybe look at like an hour. Because if you miss their window and they're overtired, first of all, they're not going to nap, because anytime they're overtired, their cortisol and their adrenaline in their blood system rises. And that's when I say it's like putting them to bed or for a nap, like after giving them a pot of coffee. They can't calm down. They, and you know they're so tired, but they will have such a hard time falling asleep. And when they do fall asleep, they're in a very light sleep. So they're going to have frequent wake ups. They're going to take a shorter nap, even though you think, well, I kept them up longer. They're going to take a longer nap. They don't. So you'll learn, knowing this, you're going to see really quickly when you've missed their windows, and how difficult that it can be for the rest of the day. So some signs you're going to look for an overtired baby is babies who don't sleep enough and who stay awake longer than they can handle end up having a stress response, an increase in adrenaline and cortisol, and making it trickier for them to wind down for bed. So sometimes it's obvious your baby's overtired, and other times the signs are really subtle. So here's some things you want to look for in your baby to see if they are overtired and we may have missed that crucial window. They have a really hard time settling down to sleep. They only take really brief cat naps instead of full-blown naps. They may sleep for 15 to 20 minutes and then be wide awake and not want to go back to sleep. They don't sleep a lot at night. They have a lot of nighttime wake-ups. They're really cranky and fussy. A lot of times they don't eat as well. They're really don't handle pain or frustration as well as they normally would if they were more rested. They, as they get older, they may fall asleep at random times during the day, like in the high chair when they're eating, or as soon as they hit the stroller and it's not even nap time. So it can be a vicious circle. And, you know, that's most 90% of the calls I get. The babies are overtired from not napping well. And so then they go into their nighttime overtired. So they don't get into that deep sleep. They have lots of wake ups. They wake up early, and then they're overtired from nighttime because they haven't gotten the healthy sleep they need, and it goes into their naps. So it just becomes this vicious circle that we really have to get in there and break by filling their sleep tanks
Yeah.
as they get older.
Yes. So let's say, for example, they're on like a little bit of like their schedule where they're sleeping, they're up for 45 minutes and then they've gone to sleep. And then for some reason in this now new nap time, baby is not going to bed and you know that they're reaching that overly tired state. What are some things that we can do as parents to try and get baby to finally go to bed for that, let's say, unique nap where suddenly it's just an outlier that baby's just definitely overly tired and not going to bed? Are there some techniques that you use?
You know, at that point, we kind of call it an emergency nap, because we don't want it to get to a point where they're so overtired. And so you don't want to use an emergency nap all the time, but there's just times where you may have to hold them for a nap. You may have to rock them. You may have to give them an extra feeding. You may have to take them in the stroller or take them for a car ride. So, you know, that's what we call kind of holding on to those emergency naps when you need them, but to not do them all the time. You can try and, you know, pick them up, calm them, you know, walk with them, do whatever you have to calm them, and then try and lay them down. But, you know, those are kind of the cases where you're really going to do whatever you have to do to get them to sleep. As long as, obviously, as long as it's safe. You don't want them to sleep in a car seat unless it's moving. You really want to try not to bring them to bed with you. And if you're breastfeeding, kind of have an all-night buffet, because they get really used to that. And some of the most difficult things to us, what we call sleep props, to break are movement, like always having them sleep in a swing or in a stroller or in a car with movement, are very difficult. And babies, that do bed share and sleep with their parents and kind of have that access to that all night buffet. Um, when the parents do want them in their own sleep space, that is a very difficult prop to break also. It can be though, it's never too late. It's never something that, oh, they're just never going to stop doing it. They'll be, going into high school and still sleeping in my bed. Um, but it can be broken, but it's just, it will just need some work.
Yeah. Oh, yes. Definitely, definitely nice to have that in the back pocket of a go into whatever you need to do to get baby to sleep in a safe way, but just do what you need to do to get baby to sleep.
Yeah.
Um, so thinking about before sleep routines. So I know at some point in this window of birth to 16 weeks, it is nice for them to start getting into a little bit of that before sleep routine, that kind of triggers their mind, right? To think like, oh, okay, my longer sleep is coming up. What at what age do you start doing that before sleep routine? And then can you help us dive into like what are some of those common sleep routines that are used at this age?
Sure. So I actually, and it probably sounds funny to a lot of people, but I actually start a bedtime routine about 6 weeks old because that's when their circadian rhythm kicks in. Before 6 weeks, when I do night nursing, I would give the baby a bath at 9, 10 o'clock at night to help the parents out, and the babies really didn't care. They would sleep when they slept, and they didn't know, wow, it's late at night for the first 6 weeks. So I would give them a bath, do my routine, put them to bed. After 6 weeks, though, I really do want parents to start some type of routine, and it can be very, very small, but I like them to get their bath earlier, because after 6 weeks, I really want like an early 7 o'clock bedtime. So I'll have parents, if they're able to, start their routine about 6 o'clock. And if they're giving a bath, the routine should not take longer than an hour if they're giving a bath. If they're not giving a bath, it should really be about 30 minutes. I mean, I have a lot of parents with every age child, doing the bedtime routine for 2.5 hours. They're exhausted. They come down sweating, and it's not enjoyable for anyone. So I really try and, we'll talk more about that with toddlers for sure. But, any type of routine that you want to pick, it doesn't have to be, what I choose, but it really, routines at every age, they really help them to know what's coming next. And it fosters a sense of safety and security. And whatever you choose for your routine, again, just make sure it doesn't take longer than an hour. It's kind of hard to get a bath and the routine in less than an hour. But the babies don't need a bath every day. They can have a bath, every 3 days. And if I don't do a bath, I'll do a spit and polish where I just wash their face, their neck, their hands, and their bottom. And then I'll, take them into their room and give them a massage, stretch out their arms and legs, play some, calming music. Even for babies, you don't want, loud TVs on, really loud music. An hour before they go to bed, you really want to try and do anything you can, like to keep them calm. I don't even like a noise machine going all night with music. It can be stimulating. But while they're getting a bath, if you want some soft music on, that's fine. So you can give a massage, put their pajamas on, swaddle them, or put them in a sleep sack. And then I just kind of get into the habit, and you don't have to do all of these. You can pick some, but I get into a habit where I'll go over and I'll like close the curtains or close the blinds with the baby. And if I'm going to if part of my routine is going to read them a book, I might, I'll sit down and, look at a page of a book. I'll turn on the noise machine with them. And even my granddaughter's 7. And if I try and leave the room, she'll be like, Gigi, you forgot to put on the noise machine. And, they really get so used to it and they're so comfortable. And the best advice I can give you as they get older, stick to 2 books. And I know if you have 3 kids, do 3 books, they each get to pick one. But it's the biggest stall mechanism, and anyone that has toddlers now already knows this. But they will be, if you don't have a certain number, and if you want that number to be 4 books, that's fine. You probably just have to start a bit earlier, but never, ever, ever go over that number, because then they'll remember you went over that number and they will be like, more books, more books, more books. They will drive you crazy. So I usually will say like 2 books, or if there's, 3 kids, they each pick out a book. And, I'll turn on the noise machine and then at this point, I do a last feeding before bed. I try not to have them fall sound asleep if at all possible. As they get older, then I put the last feeding more in the middle of the nighttime routine. So we may have solids feeding, and then a bath, and then a bottle feeding, and then read the books and close the blinds, just so that they're not being fed to sound asleep. But at this point, we want them to have a full belly as much as possible right before they go to bed. So hopefully, parents can get a little bit of extra sleep too. So you can, feed them their last feeding. Moms that are breastfeeding, sometimes what I'll have them do is do like a breastfeeding at say 5:30 and a top off with a bottle feeding of breast milk or formula like at 6:45 before they go to bed. And the only reason I do that is a lot of times I'll find that the babies are so comfy cozy with mom when they're breastfeeding that they will take a very small feeding. Usually around bedtime is when most women have their lowest milk supply, and the baby will just kind of take a snack, use mom as a soothing technique. And instead of doing a really aggressive good feeding right before bed to fill their belly, they'll only take a snack, and then they may wake up in an hour and a half and be really hungry. So, otherwise some moms will cluster feed before that last feeding. They may start feeding at 5 and then give another feeding at 6 or 6:30. Some babies will do like several feedings with breastfeeding before they go to bed. So if someone does want to give 1 bottle a day, that's usually a really good time to do it. And if their partner, wants to give that bottle, it's a way for, them to give that last bottle also.
Such good tips. Such good tips. um, let's see. So when you're thinking about, so I know a lot of people are like, you can't sleep train a baby until they're 4 months, but can you get baby on a schedule in the first 16 weeks? Can we dive into that a little bit?
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you can get them on somewhat of a schedule, but I wouldn't call it a real schedule because it's not going to be at the same time. The times are going to change every day, at this age, and for a long time, because we're looking at feeding them every 3 hours during the day, nap them according to their wake windows and sleep cues, but these times are always going to change because the baby may wake up at 7 and go down for a nap at 8 one day and sleep until 9. And so then that 9 o'clock is going to be when we start that wake window. Well, the next day they may wake up at 7, go down at 8 and sleep till 9:30. So when people, say a schedule, it can be somewhat of a schedule as far as we're going to feed them every 3 hours during the day, and, try not to let them sleep too much longer past their feeding, because we want to get as many calories in during the day so that they will start little by little to sleep more at night. And so sometimes, I'll see um, that the baby's sleeping like 5 hours during the day. And, it's sometimes when they're in daycare or have a nanny, because of course, the parents want them to sleep longer at night. So I'll say, no, we want to wake them up, unless they haven't slept well or they had a really rough night. We do want to wake them up every 3 hours to eat during the day, and then nap them according to their wake windows and sleep cues. So these times are going to change depending on what time they wake up in the morning, how much they eat, and how much they eat during the day is going to tell you how much they need to eat at night. So, and your pediatrician will let you know, okay, they're back up to their birth weights, they're eating really well, they're gaining, on a really good a spectrum. And when you look at those charts for, your baby's weight compared to somebody else's, don't compare them, because your baby maybe was born at 6 pounds and is, making small advances in their weight, which is perfect for their, weight increase. And a baby born at 9 pounds is going to, have a much bigger, weight scale improvement. And so a lot of, parents will compare, even babies they have or their friends' babies. And it's not the case. As long as the doctor is saying that your baby is having adequate weight gain, then that's all you have to worry about. And so you want to, just watch that. And, depending on how much the babies are eating during the day, they may be able to sleep more hours through the night. As they start to get older, I won't actively sleep train a baby until after they're 4 months from their due date. I don't ever use cry it out. We do a lot of different methods, but that is not one of them. And I see, most babies sleep through the night when they're taking about 30 ounces during the day and weigh over 14 pounds. But, and this usually happens after 4 months, but it can happen earlier because, some babies are just bigger and eating more. So my grandson was 15 pounds at 3 months. And so he slept through the night on his own at 3 months. That's not the norm. And, my 10 years, I don't have a ton of babies that sleep through the night at 3 months, but it depends on how much they weigh and how much they're eating during the day. So, I wouldn't actively sleep train him at that age, although I told my son, I'm never actively sleep training my grandkids. So you better listen to everything I say about sleep. And of course they did, because they love sleep. So didn't listen to anything else about anything else, but they did about sleep.
Fair enough, right? I know that's why we're all here. We're like,
Exactly. What do I know? I'm like, I can't help you with anything else but baby information. That's all I've got in my head. But,
yeah, right.
Yeah. So, and if your baby's born early, say at 36 weeks, it may take them an extra 4 weeks, to meet these goals, or, they can jump ahead.
Yeah. So I think a really important thing to kind of dive into too is when you're thinking about birth to 16 weeks, why don't you do the cry it out method? Because I think that's a really important thing to highlight why we shouldn't do that.
Well, everybody has different, ideas and views. I worked with a very famous pediatrician in Chicago, and that he was very much pro cry it out. I took care of his grandkids. Just myself personally, and the thousands of moms that I've worked with, I haven't found moms that want to do it. And I feel myself personally, I would not be able to do it with my kids or my grandkids. So it's just not something I'm comfortable with. I feel personally like I want to go in, check on them, console them, let them know I know that this is hard, but I'm here going with, going through this with you. And, I know that I could just never shut the door at 7 o'clock at night and go back in at 7 in the morning and, hey, how's your night been? Um, so that's just why I don't offer it.
Yeah.
A lot of people use it and think that it's fine. It does tend to work quicker than some of the methods that I use. Um, but it's just all depends. Most of the moms that I've talked to are not able to do it. And truly, if they want to do it, they really don't need my help.
That's a fair point. Yeah. And it's like that saying too, like you can't spoil a newborn. Like when they're crying, they typically need something, and sometimes it's just a little bit of soothing. So as a
Right.
parent, that's kind of, or as someone who's sleep consulting with a baby, it's that idea too of like maybe they just that they want to know that someone's still there for them. So if they're not hungry, if they don't have to burp, it's whatever. If you kind of go down the list, check this, check this, check this, maybe it's just like I'm out of the womb and I want someone to tell me they're still there. So as they're
Yeah.
getting acclimated to life on Earth, just reminding them that you've got their backs. I
Right.
totally know what you mean. I couldn't do the cry it out at all for myself personally. And it's, if you think about it, there's so many other ways. So I'm glad we're diving into like the other ways that you can, guide the baby through getting a better night's sleep where you're not having to do that. And it works. It
Even
really works.
without, yeah, even without doing that, you can do the process, very slowly, or you can, do it a bit quicker. It just depends, that's why there is no, you know, um, just like black and white sleep training for every baby, even at the age and weight, because babies' temperaments are different. The sleep props that they've been using for 4 months are different, and how we want to take them away or ease them off of them. Every parent is different, and it does no good to go in and say, okay, this is what we're going to use, and know that the parent is not going to be able to stick to it. So, or if both parents are not on the same page as thinking that it's time. And I don't like the words sleep training. I know that that's kind of what it goes by, but it's really building confidence in parents, giving the baby the tools, because you can't make a baby eat and you can't make them sleep. So it's really all about giving the parents and the baby an outline plan to follow, giving them the tools, the environment that they need to be able to learn to self-soothe and be able to learn in time to go to sleep on their own. And people will ask me, well, what if it doesn't work? And what I tell them is it will always work. I promise you it will always work, as long as everyone is consistent, as long as no one will give in. If two parents are not on the same page, I will never take the case, because one of them will give in, and then it's so unfair to the baby that they've, gone through anything and then, starting from scratch again. So it really is a matter of making sure that both parents are ready and educating them exactly what to do, and working with them so that they're comfortable with the plan. It can always be tweaked. Nothing is black and white. Sleep conditioning, sleep coaching, sleep training is a very, very, very gray area. And you really have to be able to pivot, because it just every baby is not the same. And like I know I've told you so many times, a lot of it is just trial and error. You know, and parents, it's so much about building parents' confidence, because, you know, so many times I'll be at mom's house, and, you know, I only let them stay up till 10 o'clock. Then they have to go to bed. But during that time, if the baby's crying for a while, you know, that the mom or the partner would be like, I don't know, I would not know if this was okay. So, you know, maybe they're crying 45 minutes, and, you know, and I'm continuing to tell them it's okay. They're fine. You know, we're consoling them, we're checking on them. They know we're here doing this with them, or we're doing a different method. But that's the main thing. If you haven't been doing, you know, 100 different babies and seeing different things that happen, you don't know, is this okay for your baby to be, you know, to be going through? You know, is it, should I have only let him cry 30 minutes and now 45 is too much? So a lot of it, I feel a lot of my job, 90% of my job, is just building the confidence with the parents, and, you know, letting them know that they're doing exactly what they should be doing. It's one more sleep, you know, it's one more skill that they're teaching their baby, among many, many, many that they're going to teach them in the future. And they're not doing this to them, as people will say, that, you know, they're doing it for them. When the babies are not in a healthy, deep, deep sleep, that is when they're having their best and most brain growth and development. So when grandmas give me a hard time about doing it, you know, I will show them the research that if the baby's having lots of wake ups during the night and not getting healthy sleep, you know, that is when they're having their most growth and development, especially their brain. So that's why it's really, really important. And when people say, well, you know, they'll grow out of it by the time they're 5, and, you know, yes, maybe they will, but, you know, what if we, you know, what have we taken from them in the meantime by not giving them healthy sleep habits?
Mhm. So specifically, as since we're talking about zero, birth to 16 weeks, when you were just talking about baby has been crying for 45 minutes, that's not that you're not letting baby cry by themselves for 45 minutes. So I just want to
No,
clarify that part. So no one watches this and thinks, oh, I need to let baby cry it out for
no,
30
no,
minutes or
no,
45 minutes. Um, what you're doing is during that time when they're crying, you're in there and you're soothing them, right? Is that what's
right.
happening?
Yeah, and before 4 months, like, we'll, you know, we'll do like a pick up, put down, where if the baby's crying, you know, you may let them cry a couple minutes, as long as we know that, you know, everything is taken care of. We'll pick them up, we'll calm them, whether we have to walk with them, rock them, whatever we have to do to really calm them, but try not to let them fall sound asleep. And then try and lay them back down in their bed, drowsy but awake. If they start crying again, you know, we may let them fuss for a minute, maybe 2 if they're closer to, you know, if they're 3 months. Um, so I don't even do the pick up and put down until they're about 3 months. And, you know, otherwise, if they're less than 3 months, you're just going to, you know, pick them up. If they're fussing, calm them down, and then, you know, you can put them down in their sleep area, but you're not going to let them cry even like 2 minutes
Mm,
before 3 months. You know, I do kind of like a pre-sleep training, pick up, put down, about 3 months.
got it. Okay, yes, I love it. So, so much good information so far. I'm so grateful that you've been walking us through all of this so far. So, just to loop everyone in, so we have a few more questions, and then we're going to get to the Q&A. So, if you have any questions, absolutely stay so you can ask questions that are specific to what you've been experiencing. As we dive into these last few, thinking about the end of this, so it's 0 to 16 weeks. Let's talk about that dreaded 4-month sleep regression that everyone has given such a bad name. Like, this is like the scariest thing ever. As parents, they're like, I'm never gonna sleep again. Um, Tell us about what it is, and then we can dive into kind of how we move through it.
Sure. So To answer what the 4-month sleep regression is about, I'm going to have to just explain what the normal sleep stages are that we all have now. So many of us just think of sleep as an on or off situation. You're either asleep or you're not. But sleep actually has a number of different stages, and they make up the sleep cycle, which we go through several times a night. So as adults or babies over 4 months, stage 1 is that initial stage we're all familiar with, where you can just feel yourself drifting off, but you don't really feel like you've fallen asleep. So anyone who's ever seen their partner nodding off in front of the TV, told them to go to bed, and gotten the candid response, "I wasn't sleeping," knows exactly what this looks like. So stage 2, which is considered the first true sleep stage, this is where people tend to realize once woken up that actually they were sleeping. For anyone taking a power nap, this is as deep as you want to go, or else you're gonna wake up groggy. I have a real problem with those power naps. I'm more like a 2-hour napper, which is not good. Stage 3 is a deep and regenerative sleep, also known as slow wave sleep. This is where the body starts repairing and rejuvenating the immune system, muscle tissues, energy stores, and sparks growth and development. And then stage 4 is REM sleep, rapid eye movement sleep. And you can even see your baby doing this. And this is where the brain starts to kick in and consolidates information and memories from the day before. It's also the stage where we do most of our dreaming. So the 4-month regression is actually called by a lot of people a 4-month progression, because babies change from only having 2 sleep cycles, stage 3, the deep and regenerative sleep, and stage 4, REM sleep, rapid eye movement and dreaming stage, that they spend half their time in each stage. They move to a 4-stage method of sleep that they'll have for the rest of their lives. So when this change takes place, babies move from 50% REM sleep to 25% in order to make room for those first 2 stages. So although REM sleep is light, it's not as light as these 2 new stages that they're getting used to. And with more time spent in lighter sleep, there's more chance of that the baby's going to wake up. So, how to get your baby to sleep better during this process.
Yeah.
Some babies you really can't notice very much. And then some babies really have a difficult time. And what I find is the babies that really you can't notice that much is babies that have learned to self-soothe and are put to bed before they're overtired. Because those two, being put to bed while they're overtired during this phase is going to just make everything worse. So the best way to help your baby through this time is to make sure they know how to self-soothe. So when they do have more wake ups during their lighter sleep, they know how to put themselves back to sleep without depending on you. Make sure your baby's not overtired going to bed or for naps. If they're overtired, they will be having an increase in cortisol and adrenaline, and they'll have a hard time falling asleep, and they will have more wake ups and increased difficulty putting themselves back to sleep. So why is that so important? And when your baby is in a deep, restful, healthy sleep is when they have their most growth and development, especially their brain. Also, a well-rested baby is much more fun.
Yes. And so are the parents.
Yes.
When I'm well rested, I'm a lot more fun. Yes. So yeah, to your point, those are really great points on how to get baby to sleep during it, and also refer back to how to create that safe and easy to sleep in environment. That's another way to really support baby through this new transition. So having it be pitch black in there, having the sound machine, all of those things that we touched on earlier, that will really help too. But the self-soothing is number one. Okay, so last question, then we're diving into y'all's questions. So if you could give parents one more piece of advice or one last piece of advice when it comes to sleep, what would it be?
Do not listen to other people's stories of how their babies slept. So many family, grandma, neighbors, oh, my baby slept through the night the first night they came home from the hospital. I hear this so many times from grandparents. And I have to really bite my tongue, honestly, because I want to say to them, well, that's not good, because when the babies come home from the hospital, you are supposed to wake them up. They need to eat.
Yes.
So the baby did not sleep through the night. You had earplugs in, shut the door, and no monitor. And that's probably, I mean, I'm the youngest of 9, so I guarantee that my parents would probably say I slept through the night the first night I came home, which I'm sure I did not. So, and people, I mean, they forget. Honestly, I couldn't tell you when my baby slept through the night. I really have no idea. It's all a blur because I did everything wrong, honestly. And there were no books, there were no classes, there was nothing, and everything was a guessing game. And now you find out that, you did everything wrong. So, the babies, they'll sleep when they're ready to sleep, when they've got full bellies. And some people say the babies sleep through the night. Well, that may be, that they ate at 12 and slept till 6. Once you have a baby home, if you have a baby that has been waking up every 3 hours and now they're older and eating more and they sleep 12 to 6, you feel like they slept through the night.
Yes.
So it's a lot different than, oh, my baby slept 12 hours, 7 at night till 7 in the morning. So just do not engage. Do not listen to other people's stories, because honestly, they're just not true. And, I don't know why we need to embellish these facts, but for some reason we do. And, it's just setting parents up to think, oh, why isn't my baby sleeping through the night? And it's just not true. And every baby is very different. Again, even your own. If your last baby did sleep 12 to 6, at 6 weeks old, this may be, this baby may sleep longer, sooner, or it maybe really struggle. So just keep that in mind, that every baby really is different. Try and avoid sleep props, like me driving my son around, as much as you possibly can. I really wish that I would have known that. But sometimes you are just, in survival mode, and you just have to do whatever you have to do. And as long as it's safe, it is okay. Be kind to yourself, take care of yourself. This is a very difficult time, and I don't care how much people try and make it look like a fairy tale on social media. uh, if you're pregnant or if you've just had a baby, you're exhausted and you are struggling, and you should just be there for each other, and not try and one up each other, because there's nothing, we all need support. And those people that are trying to pretend everything is wonderful probably have the worst problems going on and just don't want to admit it. So please just be kind to yourself, be kind to each other, your partner, support each other, and know that things are going to be hard, but they're so darn cute that they are worth every minute. And I'm here for you.
Yes. Yes. I love it. Thank you so, so, so much. I am so excited to now turn it over to you guys for this Q&A. So it looks like we got one already. And feel free to also unmute yourself. Feel free to ask any questions, dive in here. Jessica just sent through a message. What do you think about the snoo?
That's funny. You know what? I get that question a lot. I'm a happiest baby on the block instructor. I love, love, love Dr. Karp. Um, I have mixed feelings about the snoo. It's a great device, although I do think it's a bit expensive, to be honest. But and if babies have colic and, are really having a difficult time settling, I think it can certainly be helpful. The only thing you really have to remind yourself if you're using it is at some point you're going to have to stop using it. And as long as you realize that and okay, I'm going to use it for the first 3 months or 4 months, and then I know that there's going to be some big transitions to get the baby in a crib, even though I do know that they have like step down movements, and things like that. The baby may have a hard time adjusting from the constant movement to going to a crib, that doesn't move. So, I think as long as you're really aware of that and it's helping, um, it's safe. And I know it's safe. So if it is helping you, I am all for using anything that helps. And then, when it's time to get the baby in a crib, just call me. I'll be there.
Seriously though, call her. She's the best. Thank you for that question, Jessica. That's a really, really good question. I know I asked that too at the very beginning. Like, should I get this? Is it worth the investment? So really, really great question. What else, you guys? Thank you so much for staying on and joining us this whole time. So who else has any questions with their babies or soon to be babies when it comes to sleep?
Do we have any pregnant moms on, Christina?
I'm not sure. Pregnant mamas, feel free to come off of mute and say you're pregnant, or you can drop it in the chat and just say, yes, I'm pregnant. Yeah, we got, yes. We got a thumbs up here from Angie. It looks like Angie is pregnant. So we do have some pregnant mamas, and Jill is pregnant too.
Congratulations. I just really like to talk to moms that are pregnant about the very real fact that you need sleep too, especially now. I know there's a lot to do, a lot to, get situated, but it's so important, that you get rest and you get sleep. You are growing a human being in your body. And so many times we kind of forget about moms. So, I have some tips just for moms. Try and get on the same sleep schedule if you can, if you're really having a hard time sleeping, which at some point during your pregnancy, a lot of moms do have difficulty falling asleep, staying asleep. So I recommend, trying to go to sleep at the same time. Try not to be on your laptop or TV or phone for at least an hour before you go to sleep, which we all know how easy that is. Have a piece of paper next to your bed, and when you start thinking about things that need to be done the next day or the next week, write them down on the paper. So then hopefully they won't be circling in your mind once you lay down. Have it really nice and cool in the bedroom. And if your partner complains, there's plenty of room, I'm sure, on a couch somewhere in your house. And I like, there's some nice maternity pillows out there. I find some women, including myself, I had an easier time using separate pillows. I would put a pillow behind my back for support, pillow between my legs, a pillow under my belly when I was laying on the side, kind of under my belly to hold support my belly. And then still I have to hold a pillow. So lots of pillows. And again, if your partner complains, there's the couch.
Yes. Or layers. They can throw on layers.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Lots, nice and cool. You want it nice and cool, have a fan circulating air, because, a lot of pregnant women get really hot, and it's hard to sleep when when you're hot. And always, make sure, I like the Calm app. If you're having a hard time falling asleep, I've downloaded the Calm app because I sleep at all different times during the day, night. And they have like sleep stories, some calming stories to help you fall back asleep that I found really helpful, or some meditation before you go to bed or right when you get in bed. And really try not to have the TV on in your room, and make sure that it's Vegas dark in your room. For you also, being, I was a labor and delivery nurse for 10 years, working nights, and I had lots of garbage bags on my windows. And now I still sleep during the day, and I sleep with eye mask on and earplugs, so I don't get woken up by my kittens playing. And and then obviously, when the baby comes, you will have to get rid of the earplugs, unless you and your partner kind of split up the night, which a lot of parents will do. One parent will take, like 8 at night till 2 in the morning. Another parent will take 2 in the morning till 8 in the morning, so that you get some good condensed sleep. You want to try and get at least 7 hours of sleep. If you don't get at least 7 hours, I'm closer to a 9 hour, but if you get less than 7 hours of sleep, they found now that your cortisol level and adrenaline level in your bloodstream is elevated, and is not good for your sleep or your health. So just try and, make yourself really comfortable. This is a time to take care of yourself, be kind to yourself, and, make sure that you're doing well too.
Such a good point. I think they should invent a breast pump that just pumps in the middle of the night where you don't have to wake up.
Yes,
That's a Shark Tank idea. Someone take it to Shark Tank, create it for me, please.
yes. Set a timer
Yeah.
and it just goes off. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Or just like connect it to your body, go to bed and have it pump for you.
Mhm.
If
Yeah,
that's a
yeah,
thing, I need to find it.
yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
So, any other questions, thoughts on any of the stuff that we talked about today, too? Would love to hear any feedback or any questions you guys have.
So we are going to be putting, Christina's going to be putting codes on the Facebook page, on her Facebook page, with my social media information. And as I said, we did write a book called Raising Confident Parents, and it's tips from baby nurses, our past clients, and nurses for pregnancy and, helping babies sleep. But they did only let us have about 100 pages, the publishing company. So that was nowhere near enough pages for everything that I wanted to put out there. So we do have the book, and you can go on my website and download it for free. And then there is a sleep e-guide on my website also that you can download for free. And we just finished our 10 module parenting online class during COVID over the last year. I got something done, but it's really exciting because it's all the information that I couldn't share in the book. And it's really a great class. It has slideshows on pregnancy, things, checklists that you have to do before the baby comes home, everything you need for your nursery. We have interviews with Fed is Best doctor for breastfeeding and bottle feeding. We have interviews with doctors for postpartum depression, a lot of information on your hospital stay, how to help siblings, how to help your pets adjust. We have a lot of information on feeding, different types of feeding, and healthy sleep, keeping your relationship alive, postpartum depression, and lots more. So Christina's going to put the information to go on the Raising Confident Parents Facebook page, and there's a code, confidence, and you can use that code to get 20% off all of the bundled modules. You can purchase module 1 through 10, or if you're in a different spot in your parenting journey, you can purchase module 1 through 5 or 6 through 10. And you can get 20% off all the bundles. And then if you just call me or email me and tell me that you are on this class, I'm offering 20% off all of my sleep services. So if you need anything, I'm here. I always take calls. You can call me anytime for about a 15-minute free sleep evaluation if you're having problems with your babies, toddlers, anyone in the house sleeping. And so I hope that you take advantage of those.
She is worth every penny. Oh my God. I have tears in my eyes. She was our sleep consultant for Will, and he, I mean, sleeps 12 hours through the night now. He's 4 months. And again, there's like no comparison at all, but like honestly, to have that sleep was the best gift in the entire world. Like her last night, I literally cried and just hugged her. I was like, don't ever leave me. She is just, you can tell she's such a wealth of knowledge. So it's like, not only is she sleep training your baby, she just knows everything, you know. I mean, she taught me how to even just breastfeed and like how to change the way I was holding him. And it's just, I mean, invaluable. And so I am just so grateful. Pam, thank you so much for jumping on here, for spending so much time with us, for just sharing your wealth of knowledge, for sharing your heart. And I'm so excited. I hope that this was so helpful for you guys too. Let's see, how much does in-person sleep nanny typically cost? I think it's it kind of just depends on what you're needing, what your needs are. So I would reach out to absolutely Pam for that sleep evaluation, like she was saying, because I think it depends on the amount of nights and amount of hours and where you're located and things like that. So I think it's very specific to a case-by-case basis. Would you say that's right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, but absolutely call me for a sleep evaluation. I'm happy to give, any tips that I can to help during the evaluation. And then if you find that you need more help, I'm certainly happy to help you with that also.
Well, thank you so much. Thank you guys so much for joining. Take a look on the Facebook group. I will have everything up by tomorrow morning because I'm going to try and get some sleep too. So my goal is to not be on the computer for an hour before bed. Exactly as you said, Pam. Thank you. So tomorrow morning, I'll be uploading everything, the recording, the links to that digital program she talked about, her website, so you can get this incredible book, Raising Confident Parents. Thank you guys so much for joining. It was so helpful to hear all of this information again. And I hope that this was really supportive for you guys too. So thank you again. And thank you, Pam.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Christina, for having me. And thank you for all that you're doing to support expectant and new moms, because we all need that support. And I'm very, very grateful that moms have it.
Thank you for saying that. We really do all need this, as much support as we can possibly get. Absolutely. It takes a village, so let's create one.
Exactly. Well, thank you so much. I'm here if anyone needs anything, and it was my pleasure to be with you guys tonight.
Yes, thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.